Hello, and thank you for joining me for Facebook Live. I'm getting ready to do a series that I'm so excited about sharing with you. And on a personal note, I do want to say this is so strange. I'm so accustomed, for so many years. Um, it was Jesse and Melva with all the presentations and what have you. I think in December was the first time that I did like a Facebook Live by myself. So this is a new adventure in this chapter of my life. Anyway, and I am happy that you have joined me in this process. So, what is came up with a lot of information. Working together and living together for 44 years, 2 months, and 2 days. Um, we've gathered a lot of life experience as well as professional experience in working with couples, being a couple ourselves, having friends who are couple, family members. And so we have had an opportunity to know firsthand what brings success in love, marriage, and life. And my goal is to synthesize that information into tips, into bite-sized pieces to share, because I know how good it is, and what a good experience it is to be able to have guidelines, information, support in um, having the best life possible with your mate. So this first part is called a series of the 7 pillars for success in love, marriage, and life. Now, what I know for sure is that successful relationships, um, they're not perfect. It's like two imperfect people working together to build something wonderful together. And in that process, there are common threads of qualities and characteristics that we call pillars that strengthen the foundation of that relationship. So, my plan is to share 7 of those pillars during the series. And so, the first pillar that I want to share with you this time is the pillar of commitment. So, when I'm sharing these ideas, and my goal is to share them so in a way for you to think about them, um, talk about them with your partner, and consider implementing them in your relationship. Now, maybe some of the things that you're doing in your relationship, you are implementing them already, which that's cool. And this is just a review to let you know how well you are doing. As an Imago relationship therapist, the focus that we have in Imago is looking at the growth opportunities in relationships. So there's so much room for self-discovery. And the reason why I'm so focused on self-discovery and growth within the context of a relationship is because when things are going well, people have a wonderful time. It is so easy to be in flow with each other. But when you hit a hurdle, or sometimes when you hit a wall, things get to be a little difficult. And usually, when people hit a wall, they tend to wind up in arguments, and they tend to wind up in arguments over and over again. So um, let's look at that for a moment. Because the other thing that's going on is that sometimes people don't know what they don't know that they don't know that's going on beneath the surface. And so this first pillar that I'm going to share with you today is an aspect of what is going on out of the awareness of each partner. So let's start with commitment. So when you think about commitment, I wonder what comes to mind for you. I forgot to say that I'm also encouraging feedback in the chat, because I would like for this to be a conversation between the two of us. I mean, I have ideas and you have experiences, and I want to make sure that we're having a conversation and that I'm on track with you. And um, I'd like to know your questions as well as your ideas. So, starting with commitment, I I wonder what comes up for you when you think about that word commitment. Um, I know that um, that means different things for different people. So I did a survey. I did a survey before meeting with you right now. And I asked some couples what commitment meant to them. So here's some of the responses that I received. Um, so the first one about what commitment is many couples said being exclusive. Now, when a person takes their vows for marriage, that is one of the promises that they make, that there's going to be an exclusive relationship. Well, that doesn't always work. So sometimes when the promise is made, there's going to be an exclusive relationship, there are times that one partner, that commitment. So the promise is what is made in advance, that's following through on it. Um, and one of the commitments or promises broken in terms of affairs is one of the things that shows up in my office when I'm working with couples one on one, and also when I'm working with couples in groups. So, being exclusive, if you made a promise to be exclusive with your partner, then the commitment is keeping that problem, keeping that promise. So, here's another one um, from the survey: being able to count on each other no matter what. Here's the thing, it is so easy to count on each other when things are going well. But when one of you frustrates the other, it is very difficult sometimes for the other partner to show up. So, the whole idea of counting on you, like one partner to another partner, um, to be there to listen to me when I get off track, um, to hear me out when I'm sharing my heart with you, um, to um, to be a teammate with me when we navigate this challenge together. Those are some examples of being able to count on each other in terms of feedback that I received on the survey. Um, the other commitment that was in the survey in terms of what a commitment is putting in the effort and investment to make the relationship work. And like I said earlier, when things are going well, it is easy peasy. But it's when you hit life's challenges that that becomes more difficult. And why is that? Because when things are not going well and you have two different people with two different perceptions of what's going on, two different needs for how to get on the other side, those are the times that it is so difficult to get on the same page together. And even though it's difficult, it doesn't mean it's not possible. Okay, so the other one is pretty much close to the one that I just shared, sticking together through the rough times. Since the divorce rate is so high, the research shows that that is one of the things that's very difficult for couples when they reach a hurdle. So that's about the divorce rate. What about the couples who are in a love relationship and they hit that same hurdle? What happens to them is that they break up. So, what is commitment? Commitment to me is following through on the promises made, that how you were going to show up for yourself and show up for your partner in the relationship to build the kind of life that you want to have together, even though obstacles get in the way. And promising yourself, promising your partner, and following through on that promise to work through the obstacles. And knowing that those obstacles provide self discovery and opportunities for growth for both of you. And that is why making a commitment is important. Because when you know what the agenda is beneath the surface, some people don't think about their relationships within the context of self discovery and growth. But it's difficult for that not to happen when life presents so many experiences that people face on a day-to-day basis, experiences outside of the relationship in terms of work, um, experiences in the relationship when there's children and parenting together, experiences when there are health challenges to address and to be there for each other. So commitment is so important, because if the commitment is not there, then the whole foundation of the relationship begins to fade and erode. Um, Hope that makes sense. Now, I would like to know, and I would love for you to put in the chat a big why that you would have for keeping a commitment in your relationship, especially when the times get tough. So I'm going to keep going. Go ahead and put your questions and comments in the chat, and I'd like to answer or address them before we end. And the other part is, even after this is over and you put ideas and thoughts in the chat, I will still I still want to address them, because this Facebook group is a forum for people to share. All right, so what's next about so let's get personal now. What I'd like to do now is to ask you a few questions about where you stand in your commitment to your partner. And I'm inviting you to just focus on you. I mean, it's easy to focus on the commitments or the promises that your partner has broken. That's really easy. You can probably make a long list of those. Or it could be one or two, but they're so significant that it brings stress to the relationship. So just focus on you, because sometimes when feeling vulnerable, sometimes when under stress, it's very difficult to keep the promise, to keep the commitment made, to be there no matter what. Okay, first one. Think about the promises that you have made to your mate, and the ones that those of you who are married, think about the promises made during that wonderful wedding ceremony. During the beginning of the relationship, and the emotions are high, the feel-good feelings are rampant. Just take a moment and think about the commitments that you made when the two of you came together. And I'm going to keep these questions available for you so that you can think about them even after our time together. So that's the first one. The second one is, which one of those commitments were easy to keep? Now, one thing that I know for sure is that it's really, really easy when you're getting along and you're not stressed out by each other or other situations going on outside of your relationship. It's easy peasy, like I was saying earlier. So just be mindful. What are the commitments for you that have been easy to keep? The third one is um, which ones have been difficult? Because life happens. There are times that it's just too much to keep a promise. What has been the circumstances for you that has made it difficult for you in any given situation? Um, so that's number 3. Number 4, um, what promise has your mate made and broken that's causing arguments between the two? Because when someone that we care about, anyone and we're in a relationship with, if they break a promise and don't fulfill their commitment, it has an impact on us. And that impact is what it includes is feelings are activated, feelings of frustration, sometimes anger. Um, and then that's connected to the thoughts about what's going on. And since when we're filled with emotions, then our thinking goes to the worst catastrophic interpretation of the meaning of, in this case, a broken promise. And then instantly, because all of this happens like within milliseconds, and then instantly there is a reaction because you're frustrated, you're thinking about how wrong your partner is, um, and how bad this feels. And then there's a reaction to that. And then an argument ensues. You're going back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. And what happens is the couples that I have worked with and couples that I know, when they don't get that managed, when they don't get that worked through, when they don't get it resolved, then they wind up having the same argument over and over about whatever that is. So this time we're talking about commitments. So that argument would be over and over about that broken commitment because nothing has been resolved. The person who broke the commitment, they're being defensive, and the person who has been impacted by that broken promise, their defense is about how upsetting that was for them. Okay, so that's number 4. Number 5. Okay, so this one is for you. So what promises and commitments have you made to your partner that you have broken that causes arguments? Now, here's what I know. People don't wake up in the morning and say, I'm not going to follow through on my commitment to my partner today. That's just not how people think consciously. When there is a broken commitment or a broken promise, something happens that leads to a person to react to how that broken promise affects them. And so think about, for you, a time that it was easier not to follow through. Because sometimes a person will say, I was there for my mate until they did blah, 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 fill in the blank. And some of the ways to fill in the blank include, if I mentioned affairs before, if your partner was not being exclusive, or if your partner was missing in action when you needed the most, or if it's a money issue and there's a spender and a saver, and the saver is the person who tends to spend, just went over budget one time too many, and that causes arguments. It could even be things like making a commitment or a promise, or agreeing to, I'm going to help around the house, so that one person is not responsible for the whole thing. So those are some ideas. So just think about for a moment some of the ways that it has been difficult for you to keep commitments. So again, commitments, that is a important pillar for the foundation of a strong, successful relationship. So just think about that for a second in terms of how it applies to you. And the reason to answer these questions is not to give yourself a hard time. The reason for these questions is for self-discovery, because sometimes when we don't know about what we don't know, then we focus on the wrong thing. And usually we focus on what the other person is doing or not doing. And while that's part of it, it's also important for us to know how we're impacted and how we respond in kind. And if a couple wants to strengthen this part of the relationship, there is a way. So what if all of these pillars that I will be sharing with you, what if all of these pillars will support you in getting through whatever rough spots that you have, so that you can transform them into strengthening the foundation of your relationship? And we like to say, I still talk like I'm talking with Jesse. We like to say, and building the relationship of your dreams. So I want you to keep that in mind. And then the other thing I want you to think about, okay, so I'm thinking about, the commitments that I have made. I'm thinking about the commitments that my partner has made. And I've answered all these questions, and I have more awareness about how to think about this differently. Well, what's next? What's next? Because information is one thing. The next thing is, what do I do with this information? So there's a couple of things that I would like to offer to you. One is that if you would like support in getting in touch with the blind spots to working together to strengthen this pillar of commitment in your relationship, I can help you. I can help you by setting up a one-on-one with me and the two of you, set up a complimentary session and support you to take a look at the bigger picture and look at the opportunities for you to turn things around. And the easiest way to do that is to go to my page, my website, jesseandmelva.com/consultation. And that link is also on the screen. One thing that's really important to me, that has been part of the work, or a lot of the work that has been successful for me, is to help couples to see the blind spot and then turn them into stepping stones, milestones, building blocks for growth and for coming together and for strengthening the relationship. I can't tell you the number of times that I've been able to celebrate with couples when they have the awareness and they follow through. So I would like to help you with that. The other thing is, I would like for this to be a discussion in the Facebook group. in terms of the questions that you have about commitments and what to do about it when you don't feel that when it's difficult for you to keep a commitment, or if you're experiencing disappointment because your partner has not. So feel free to enter your questions even after this is over, which is going to be in a couple of minutes. I appreciate you for joining me today. I continue to be excited about what I'd like to share with you uh, for how to strengthen your relationship. And what I can say personally is that I know what a good marriage is. I know what a strong marriage is. And I was blessed to have one for a very, very, very long time. And I am excited and I am dedicated to sharing with you what I have discovered and experienced. And that is going to stay with me forever. And I'd like to join you and for you to join me so I can support you to have the relationship of your dreams. So next time, we're going to talk about the next pillar. Be sure to keep your questions coming, and I'll be happy to answer them. And the other part that I want you to know is, in addition to the consultation to support you one-on-one, I will be giving you information about something else that I will be providing to support you to take those next steps to turn things around. So again, thank you for joining me. I am Melva Thomas Johnson. Looking forward to next time. Next time, the next pillar we're talking about is intimacy. Take care.